Tēnā anō tātou katoa, I tae mai whakarongo ngā kōrero I te tari Kaeo. Nō reira, kanui te mihi. Tēnā koutou, everybody. Thank you for listening in again this evening. Just sharing parts of He Waka Pūtanga and Te Tiriti o Waitangi and the way our tupuna saw it, if I can say that. Now, this evening, I'd like to share another element of reading He Waka Pūtanga and Te Tiriti o Waitangi, confirming that they're in an ancient dialect of our culture. And this particular one is the use of sequences. And the document I'm going to advocate here this evening is written in sequences. And those sequences will become familiar, hopefully, with this brief explanation on the use of sequences and how sequences applied. I guess like the sequences that are used as an explanation to making a cake. It's a recipe, it has ingredients, and it has ingredients list, it has ingredients measurements. The document has some parallels in that tone, if I could express it like that, that are very, very critical also to understanding our culture and understanding the way that the authors that wrote He Waka Pūtanga and Te Tiriti and what eyes they were looking through the experiences that they had had. I'm going to also use an expression that was used, organic law, the natural process of the environment is leaning towards those sequences that we're going to discuss here tonight. Now, a part of our culture that expresses the sequences very, very fluently is, it's called a Pepeha. And I'm going to write it on the board here. From my understanding from many hui with the elders, the Pepeha is significant by way of an identification through a tribe, a hapu, and a waka territory. And it's used, each territory and each hapu have their unique way of expressing a Pepeha. Now, in the case of He Waka Pūtanga and Te Tiriti o Waitangi, the Pepeha was used to identify the critical nature of the sequences. And if I can, just to encourage listeners to continue listening right through the end of this critical part of our delivery. We've had discussions on antithesis and black and white, total opposite. We've had discussions on other components that the analytical thinking and the reactive mind and what that does to a reader that's reading the document first and foremost. The elders spoke like this: read the document, read the document, read the document. And as you read the document, you get to understand the document. And so the more you read the document, the more you'll understand. I want to disclose also now, each single kupu or word on the He Waka Pūtanga and the Te Tiriti o Waitangi has, as an explanation, a thesis of information behind each single kupu. And I would encourage that that kind of expression or that kind of way of looking at the document as you're reading it more and more and more in an attempt to come to some understanding. There is a kupu in the document, if I could digress just for a second, as a giving validation to what that is talking about. In the document, we're talking about I raro mai o hauraki, Article 1, the second line, ko mātou ko ngā tino rangatira o Nutirini I raro mai o hauraki. When they used the kupu Nutirini, Nutirini was a word that was used for only one reason. It was because they were talking to the world, and the world knew where Nutirini was. And so that was why they put that kupu. There are a couple of other kupu that are in, or words that are in the document that were put in amongst the sequences, but they were new words. Nutirini was one of them. Ko te kingitana, ko te mana I te whenua in Article 2, the first line, Kingitana was another new kupu that was put in there because the world knew those words or those expressions that were used. There are a few more in the document that are new for the purpose of who they were speaking to, which is very important. All of our discussions so far have been about what the tupuna, one party, but there's another party, and that's the party that that supported Te Waka Mininga in endorsing the 1835 and the 1840, who recognised those two documents globally. And I want to assure you that it was recognised globally in a lot of the countries around the world that were traded with were done. But the kupu in there, I raro mai o hauraki, today's contemporary reo uses raro in the opposite context as it is used in the context as it was then. And I just wanted to say that, and if you do your investigation and look at the theses of information around that kupu and why it's been reversed today, would give confusion to the reader if they were to read the document in a contemporary way. So further down in Article 2, you'll find the expression opposite to raro, and that's runga. And so if we look at those two kupu, we'll get to an understanding on what sort of understanding they had of the earth, of Aotearoa as a fish and a canoe, if I can say it like that, the North Island being a fish. I just wanted to lead you down a path of investigation of the raro and runga within He Waka Putanga. It's the head of the fish that's important. The head of the fish is significant because whatever angle you're on in our taha Māori world, whatever angle you're facing, you can be hanging upside down, you can be lying down, you can be running backwards. Wherever the top of your head is, that's the top. That's runga. Okay, wherever your head is. And we know the expressions that our grandparents used from Taitokoro up here. We were going up to Auckland. That's how they said it. Today we say we're going down to Auckland because of the contemporary colonisation of saying that south is below north. When you shoot yourself out into space a few miles, you tell me where up and you tell me where down is. So that's how a little bit of an indication on how our ancestors saw the universe, the solar system. And does runga and does raro mean up and down in our contemporary world that we live in today? It's being suggested as it does mean that, but if I could add the kupu, the head of the fish, or that phrase, and the tail of the fish is at one end and the head is at the other end. The head is always the status of mana, and mana is always at the top. So if there is top and bottom, the top of the head gives the explanation as to why the tupuna use raro and runga in the document the way they have. So in saying that, back to these sequences, the pepeha was used in an explanation on pepeha and the sequences, and again using organic law to derive the sequences. I'll call them the sequences of creation. If the tupuna use a certain numerical symbol of ingredients, and they use specific measurements of those ingredients to put together a document that is being expressed to be a living document. So they're the creation, they're the ingredients of creation, in my opinion, from what the elders spoke about, that were fluent in that rangi tuhaha and that te Aotearoa world. Very important, those two particular dialects, because they express the dialect that which document is speaking about and which dialect the 1840 document is speaking from. I assure you the rangi tuhaha dialect and the te Aotearoa dialect are two totally different dialects. And there are many, many dialects in Aotearoa between the tribes. There are many, many dialects here in Ngāpuhi for different things, especially contemporary things. The way that the pepeha is used as sequences, it was expressed very, very organically. And the organic expression of a pepeha giving critical indication as to sequences was, picture yourself, you're in your canoe and you're heading to the north or to Aotearoa. And what's the first thing you see? And we were told what the first thing you see. And the first thing you see is your maunga. And as you get closer and closer to your maunga, you see the harbour you're from, or we say today, moana. And when you go into your harbour or you get close to your moana, regarding the development and creation of a pepeha using those critical sequences, you find many, many rivers, or up in the north here, we say manga. So you choose one of the rivers. So the third sequence of a pepeha, manga. So I hope you're getting the idea. So you travel up your river and you come to a point in time, you may go past several other hapu to get to a point where you're finally going to step off your canoe onto into your kainga. Now, a pepeha is made up of many, many components that identify your jurisdiction here in Aotearoa as a hapu, or as a tribe, or as a person that belongs to a that has whakapapa, if I can say it like that, because on the canoe as well, and I'll put that up here next as the next sequence, your waka. There were many, many tupuna on that waka, and we don't all come from the same tupuna. Up in Taitokoro, where I'm from, we talk about the mātātua waka, and we know that whakatāne has a relationship with us because the tupuna down there. So that doesn't make it complicated. That makes it very, very simple to understand that in whakatāne, Toro was their tupuna, and Muriwai, and there's a few others too. But ours up here is a taina of that canoe, and his name was Puhi. So in saying if I was to develop my pepeha after waka, I could put Puhi te tangata. So I want to give very, very critical attention to the sequences that this explanation is talking about, and the critical nature in the way a pepeha is developed. I personally have heard a lot of pepeha being expressed. For an example, and I'm not here to criticize anybody or correct anybody or claim to have knowledge above anybody, but some of the corrections that were made to us when we used taku maunga, taku moana, taku manga, there was an ownership component to taku. So as a pepeha expression and belonging to, which is, I'm going to say, the measurements of the ingredients. Here's the ingredients, and these are the measurements of the ingredients in the recipe to create the cake we're making. And so we had to correct the measurement. And say toku meaning I belong to, taku meaning I own. And so there is the correct measurement in what I know, if I can say it like that, as to, first of all, we have the ingredients list. This isn't all that's in a pepeha. There are many, many other things. There's your urupa, there's your marae, there's your wharekai. There's lots of things that's in a pepeha. These are just the few that I've used in an attempt to point out the critical nature of the sequences that are used. The document is written, if I can disclose this, the document is written in specifically in 36 different sequences. And when we read the document and read it and develop your pepeha, you'll find that the 36 ingredients that were used to make the He Waka Putanga o Te Rangatiratanga document, and of course the Te Tiriti o Waitangi, will be getting closer and closer to understanding what sort of understanding that our tupuna had when they wrote the two documents. I want to be very critical to the point where the knowledge that I'm sharing with you is knowledge that was shared with me by very, very astute and very fluent elders. I want to make that claim because I'm not here to claim any dictatorship over everybody or anybody or make that claim at all. But I do have a responsibility, as they have shared with some of us, to share it with everybody else, whatever that means as far as tuku kōrero is concerned. I do see that there is a lot of confusion being made out there in the race, I'll call it, to get to the top of the ladder as far as He Waka Putanga and Te Tiriti is concerned. And again, I'm not making that as a criticism. There are many, many snakes in the grass out there that lead people down the garden path. I've taken it upon myself to try to alleviate, because every time a snake in the grass arrives in Taitokoro, there's a wake of despair that's left behind, and there isn't really any need for that from people who choose to, I'll say, tell lies and use quite a big imagination on what they have searched of Google or the search engine of the government to express what the, so I'm here defending those elders that shared that story with me. And I hope that's okay. And I mean no disrespect to anybody, but you as an individual that has taken the time to listen to what I'm wanting to share, I hope it has been valuable. I hope it has been beneficial for you. I have no motive, I have no intention, but purely to ensure that the collateral damage that's created by snakes in the grass that come into Taitokoro and attempt to tell Taitokoro what this document means, that they are dealt with severely, if I can say it like that. And again, I mean no disrespect. I'm just applying a typical Ngāpuhi behaviour where we like to, we were given a responsibility. In 1835, we were given another responsibility in 1840, and we've held that responsibility. It was when the document went outside our territory, where we were called to Hirangi back in the 80s to a hui that was called by Hepi Te Hiuhiu, and our taumata were told to take the document Tiaki ngā kupu e He Waka Putanga me Te Tiriti. And I just, as a certain single individual person, enjoyed being with the elders of that time. There are still many, many of our elders out there. And why I'm mentioning them, because there's still a lot of our elders around the mutu that used to attend Waitangi and have these kinds of discussions. So that's what gives me inspiration to share these discussions with you on this platform. So I hope this evening's kōrero has been valuable. There's many, many more components of the behaviour of the authors of He Waka Putanga and Te Tiriti that I would like to share, and I'm going to share with you all. So it's been very, very appreciative as far as I'm concerned to share with all of you that are listening. And I appreciate the question, and I appreciate the comments, and look forward to reading more of your comments, listening to more of your questions, and even talking with you at some point in time through this journey. Nō reira, kia ora tātou.